Michelle Hu is an audio designer, director, and Foley artist whose contributions can be seen in TV, movies, and video games. In episode 131 of the Red Tunic Podcast, we talk about how they got into the industry, some words of encouragement, games that made them want to work in games, a bit of childhood nostalgia, their Mount Rushmore of games, life outside of gaming, the lightning round, some underappreciated games, and Steam Next Fest. Before we get started, don't forget there are links in the episode description that you can follow to learn more about Michelle as well as the podcast. Also, don't forget to like and share the episode, and without further ado, enjoy episode 131. Hi, and welcome to the Red Tunic Podcast, a podcast where I look to rediscover what makes gaming fun and enjoyable by having positive conversations with those related to the industry. My name is Link, and today I'm joined by audio designer, director, and Foley artist Michelle Hu, whose works can be found across all mediums in TV, movies, and video games. Hi, Michelle. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Link?
I am doing all right on this Monday. I hope your Monday is going well as well.
Yeah, very much. We're both in chilly Canada, but inside and feeling warm. So, yeah, it's a good day. It's sunny today, so I'll take it.
Yes, that is always at least some form of a plus when you're in the middle of winter. It's better than having a gray day where it's just gray, right?
Yeah, spring is coming, so there's hope.
Yes, it's March 2nd. So yeah, spring is definitely closer to than it was, a while back. So yeah, spring is coming, luckily. Now, Michelle, before we get started, if you don't mind, would you mind, telling everyone who you are, what you do, kind of like an elevator pitch or like the 411 on who you are, in case I missed something or in case there's things you'd like people to know before we go further?
Yeah, 411. My name's Michelle. I have about a decade of experience in the games industry with my roots come from music and post-production for audio. I have a deep love for sound design and Foley, but I have experience in end-to-end audio development in games. So like from pre-planning stages, creating the sounds, recording the sounds, editing dialogue, working with composers, can be like implementation, troubleshooting, and mixing games. There's a lot behind it. I've gotten the experience to sort of touch all of those avenues throughout my career. And most recently, I shipped Ambrosia Sky with an indie studio called Soft Rains. And before that, I guess my origins in games come from AAA, where I began working at Ubisoft Toronto, where I helped ship Watch Dogs Legion and the DLC that came with it. And yeah, as you mentioned, I also work in TV and film. I most recently worked on a horror film, a Canadian horror film called In a Violent Nature, which excitingly, we were nominated for Best Sound Editing at the Canadian Screen Awards this past year. So that was cool. We also got Kill of the Year with Fangoria, which was awesome. And yeah, that's kind of like Cole's notes. I just dabble a lot in sound, and it's always been a part of my life for as long as I can remember, starting in music school way back when, 20 years ago, I will say, in university. So I just aged myself, I think, but there you go. That's the Cole's notes.
So firstly, thank you for sharing that. Now, it's okay. I've aged myself several times on this podcast and realized, I'm closer to 40 than I'm not, and be like, I'm very old.
Mm-hmm.
I'm right in there with you. It's okay. It happens. It happens.
Life.
Yeah, exactly. But no, thank you for sharing that, because that's really interesting that, you've been doing this for 10 years longer, if you include the everything else. And I'm not gonna lie, I forgot that Ubisoft used to have a studio in Toronto. I only remembered them in Montreal. So thank you for reminding me of that as well.
That's right. Yeah, it's still there to this day. Yeah.
Well, then I am reminded that Ubisoft still has a location in Toronto, not that they used to.
Yeah.
But no,
The
yeah,
biggest
thank you.
one is in Montreal. You're right, though. Yeah.
But no, thank you for all of that. And also, congratulations on the nomination for the horror movie, The Sound. In that,
Yeah.
that's awesome to hear. I'm always impressed when something like Canadian stuff gets any form of recognition, even from within
Yeah.
Canada, just because, you know, it's we're relatively small in that frame, even though a lot of stuff is filmed here and
For
is like
sure.
more Canadian than anything else, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And this one took place in the Canadian wilderness and it has like this cult following now. And it's just like, yeah, feel proud to have that out there.
And I'm gonna check it out later, look it up. So thank you for also dropping that. That's also something I can
Yeah,
look into.
for sure.
Um, but yeah, so uh, you mentioned 10 years. I'm wondering, how is it that you transitioned from doing, I'm going to say, more traditional audio music, what have you,
Yeah.
into the like game side of things, if you don't mind sharing that?
Yeah, of course. So I started off studying percussion performance at the University of Toronto and loved doing that, got to perform with orchestras around the world, and I got to study contemporary music as well, which is such a broad genre, but it involved a lot of like what they call like found sounds and found objects. So it could be using, I don't know, metal pipes or wood logs, or anything you find, even like in your kitchen, that kind of thing. And it always just really spoke to me. And, I always love rhythm and how it's like integral to movement and animation and comedy. And during my time as a percussionist, I was always interested in bridging music with sound effects to visuals. And after I had finished my studies at U of T, I was like, oh, I really want to either play more, music or make sound effects for like video games or film. And I discovered something called Foley, which is performing sound effects to picture. And I was like, oh, like percussion is rhythm. Rhythm is Foley. Like my mind kind of got blown a bit that it was a thing that was out there. There's Foley artists that do this kind of thing as a job, and they're the ones like making the sound effects behind so much of movies and animation. And so what I started doing was I just started reaching out to animators online. And, I asked if I could practice creating sounds for their animations. And they didn't really mind. They're just like, yeah, sure, you can download it and just, try out whatever you want to do. So I started gathering props from the outdoors and just like household items. And I discovered how much I really loved doing that. Um, but then I just felt like the technical side behind it was kind of holding me behind. Like I was using, no shade, I was using Audacity and Logic from like a bit of Logic from music school. We learned that, but I knew there was a lot more to learn in terms of like how do you properly use a microphone? What speakers do I use? What's a plugin? And like general signal flow of sound and how to get the best sounding you know anything into your machine. So I decided to attend audio engineering school, and it helped me build a strong technical foundation. And I just found that like my musical background deeply shaped my approach to sound design. And so yeah, in audio school I learned Pro Tools, acoustics, proper signal flow, and just how to use different techniques in the industry. And like yeah, it just started giving me the chance to make connections in the industry as well. So really enjoyed going to school for that. And after school, I went into interning at a post-production studio that works on like TV and films. And yeah, from there, I just learned like the actual standards of working in the industry. And I moved around to different studios after that, where I got to handle projects from like start to finish. So that's where I started learning editing dialogue, making your sound effects, recording ADR, and I worked on like different indie films and documentaries and stuff like that, and just got to yeah, broadened my horizons into like different film festivals from there. And a few years in, someone from the first internship that I did, he worked in what they call sound layback. So they're doing like, they're QAing films and sound and stuff like that in that department. And they remembered me, and he recommended me for a voice designer role at Ubisoft Toronto because he had moved there first, like a few years before I ever did. And at that time, I had never thought I'd work in games because I didn't have experience with middleware or game engines. So it was a little scary. I was like, I don't know if I can, but I'd been gaming my whole life, like from early '90s PCs to a console ever since then. So I went to interview at Ubisoft Toronto, and they were looking for someone at Ubisoft Toronto that they could train from the ground up because they were looking for someone who had like an audio background, but trainable and willing to learn proprietary game engines and proprietary voice design pipelines because it was for Watch Dogs Legion. And for Watch Dogs Legion, like the mandate for the game was play as anyone in the world. You can recruit anyone on the streets to become a hacker. And yeah, so that it was a trial by fire. But my post-production and technical background helped me ramp up quickly on game engines because I felt really comfortable in audio software, DAWs, and I had an idea of like audio workflows already. So at Ubisoft, I had to learn Wise and did all the certification tests and just ran around a lot, just trying to learn everything, get caught up. But that's kind of where I first started in the industry.
So, thank you for sharing that. And I haven't spoken to a whole lot of people that are into sound stuff. And
Yeah.
it always amazes me when I talk to them and they say all of the stuff that actually is involved in sound. And this kind of happens with like everyone, but sound more so because I do this little recording and I have some semblance of an idea of how some things can work on the surface. And it's
Right.
always one of those moments where like there is so much stuff that I have no idea even exists. And I am happy
Right.
that I can just push a few buttons and it works for me. But
Right.
the amount of stuff that like goes into doing proper audio and making it work and all of like you said the pipeline all of that fun stuff, it's always a fun reminder to uh, that I know nothing, right? It's always fun to be like told like you don't even know enough to be dangerous, you just know that something exists, and that's always fun for me because it's just funny. So thank you
Right.
for that reminder.
Oh, of
um
course. Sound is one of those things where it's like the old adage saying, like, sound's one of those things that if it's working well, you won't notice it. You just kind of feel it and it feels right. But when it's off, when it sounds bad, you just know it's bad. But if it's going well, you probably can't tell usually. You're just enjoying the experience and what you're seeing on the screen. So, yeah, you're definitely not alone.
and what you just said, it reminds me of something for related to typography, and it's a very similar
Mm,
statement. It's basically if it's decent or good typography, you have nothing to say about it. If it's great,
yeah,
you're impressed. If it's bad, you know it, right? So
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
a very similar thing that if it's good, if it's doing its job, it
yeah.
just exists, and you are just happy to not even notice it outside of
That's right.
noticing it, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Um, Also, I'm curious if you have any like words of encouragement or what have you for people that would want to get into like follow a similar path or what have you. And when I ask this, I always say like you can think of it from the perspective of talking to like a younger version of you or whoever you would like to basically picture in your mind. If you have any of those words of encouragement.
Yeah, of course. I get messaged from time to time and from young people looking to get into the industry. And I feel like I always type this different version of the same ish kind of answer where like there isn't a single right path into the industry. Like even mine, it's very zigzaggy, but the more people you talk to, everyone's got a different path that how they ended up where they did in any creative field, really. So everyone's journey is really unique, and that's kind of what makes it exciting. So I think the thing is to carve your own niche by trusting your own instincts and like tailoring what you do like and what you want to do. So following your passions and saying yes to opportunities that excite you, even if they scare you a little bit, especially at first. And don't be afraid to pivot when something isn't working. So some of the best careers are built on unexpected turns, detours, moments of just like being curious about something. And like I started playing percussion. I didn't even think about working in games, as I mentioned earlier. And yeah, a lot of people might start in film and they want to go into coding and they follow that. And yeah, what matters is just like staying open. Like for me, it's definitely that's how I got to where I am now. It's like staying open to learning, connecting with people, and believing in the value of like your own perspective. It takes time to develop, like, your tastes and your experience, but sort of trust in yourself, and the skills you pick up along the way will shape your path in ways that you can't predict, I guess. It's a combination of timing, luck, and who you know.
So thank you for that. I like that. I like that kind of advice where, it's just be open and be willing and ready to say yes if it's something that excites you, something you'd be interested in, even if, like you said, even if it scares you, because, you know, you're only underwater for a little bit. You eventually learn to swim, and
Yeah.
fingers crossed that you learn to swim before you drown, right?
Yeah, and if you do, you find out you're not good at something, you pivot, you just be like, okay, I learned from this, and what did I learn from that, and go sort of move on to the next thing because there's something out there for sure.
Yes, and that's also an important thing you kind of alluded to, um, that if a failure is not like necessarily a bad thing, it just means there you can learn from it and try something that might be better for you, right? So,
Mm.
learning and failing at something isn't always a bad thing. It's just a thing that can happen, and you just gotta do your best to not be destroyed by it, right?
That's true. Or you could shelve it for a bit. Like timing might be off as well. Like they don't, if there's a company you really want to work for, but they're not looking right now, maybe just go do something else, hone your skills for a bit, and like the job might open up again, or you'll find a better one.
Yes, exactly. Now,
Yeah.
Michelle, I am curious about this because you said that you played games since I'm sorry, you aged yourself again. I
I
was
know
I was
I
trying
did.
not to laugh when you
I
said when
know, I know.
young people
Get
come to
get
ask you
ready.
questions.
I'm gonna keep aging myself in this talk, I think. Even when we talk about like, yeah, I know we're maybe gonna touch on some childhood games and stuff, but yep, get ready.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering, um is there is there a specific game that
Right.
you played when you were younger that made you think, this would be awesome if this is something I could one day do? And then, as a lot of people probably come to the realization of they don't know how that would work and they find other
Mm.
paths to things. And in this case, you found your way back. But was there like a time when you were younger playing games that you were like, this would be awesome to do? And if there was, what game or series or what have you is made you like do that or think that?
Yeah, it's a great question, but it's actually a tricky one for me to answer because I don't think that there was like one game that made me want to make games. Even though games were always around my life as a pastime, I didn't really think it was an option for me. So I'd say that I've always loved like either funny games, cozy games, puzzle games, but the N64 was a console that was really influential in my de- developmental years. Woo. Ocarina of Time, as you probably it was a big influence for you too. Mario Kart, Pokemon. Like I went to my friends' houses all the time. After school, we bonded by playing games. So like, even family parties, we bonded by playing games. Be like, I don't know, GoldenEye, Bomberman, Dance Dance Revolution. So I don't know, it was just always in the background of things. For me, it was actually like animation and cartoons that made me fall in love with sound. And I watched so much TV as a kid, but I would say like slapstick ones like Looney Tunes, Freakazoid, Animaniacs, that kind of stuff. Like maybe I watched too much TV as a kid. It was like Wallace and Gromit. And then anime was a big thing that hit North American TV in the 90s too. And yeah, I pretty much just watched TV after school all every day. And for me, the dream job was wanting to work as a voice actor for cartoons. That was what I remember, like for my grade 4 project. As like, I want to be a voice actor when I grow up, and did a whole project on that. So yeah, I can't think of like one game, but it would have just been like how weird the 90s were. That made me want to go into, working in the entertainment industry in general.
So thank you for that. And yes, the '90s. I haven't seen too many more kids-ish cartoons in my old age. But yes, the '90s were wild. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same kind of wild, but they were wild, yes. And did did you grow up in Toronto, or were you from another? And there's a very innocent reason for why I'm going to ask this. I want to preface with that.
I did. I was born and raised in Toronto, so yeah, watching like YTV and Cartoon Network, like those were in my daily rotation for sure.
So that means you did get to experience Phil and Zit while watching YTV
Oh
then.
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, which was so epic because they were just like rebels that kind of did whatever on TV. And I guess like I don't know if everyone listening knows about Phil and Zit, but you can add to it because my memory could be hazy, but uh, Phil was a VJ on YTV and the person who like talks about TV shows in between the cartoons, and Zit was well, they built a whole backstory. Zit was this weird like TV with like, was he purple? And he had this
Yes.
like TV case. Yeah, that was like gooey looking, but he had these eyeballs on the screen or something. Or no, it was a mouth on the screen, I should say. Eyeballs were above the TV, and they just talked about weird stuff. But I think eventually started building like backstories about where Zit was from. And yeah, like that's the kind of stuff we grew up with, and I think like gets ingrained in you, like how weird narrative stories can get. And yeah, that's the kind of stuff I still like love that we can totally get into, where you know really weird stories.
Yes, exactly. And I don't know how prevalent YTV is outside of like Ontario-ish, and that's why I asked if you were from Toronto originally.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I don't know if he was out in BC. I don't know if he was out in Newfoundland.
Oh yeah, I
But I
don't
know
know. Yeah.
for certain, Ontario kids got accosted by the very, the very almost horrifying um, soundscape of Zit, with
Right,
just like
right, yeah.
the up like close up of some human's teeth, like a person's teeth, like it was a very interesting time,
I
and
love that. Yeah.
it amazes me that Phil and anyone else who dealt with him, because I think there was a few people after Phil left that they were
Yeah,
able to keep a straight face while working with that eldritch horror
I
talking at
know.
them.
Oh, it's amazing though. I feel like I'm still chasing that high of like weird TV. It's just like what they're capable of, and you're like you just want that kind of stuff. Whenever you're consuming media. So,
Yes, I think that's one of the things that we've lost with like everything going more towards
mm,
streaming and such.
hmm.
Um, the thing I personally miss the most though is how we used to be able to see like toy cartoons in between, or not toy commercials in between things.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
that's what I miss the most of, just
me
because
too.
like I don't need to, like when I see ads on like YouTube or whatever, I don't care about I don't know, car insurance or whatever ads they're throwing at me. I
Right.
tune it out. So gambling ads, what have you. Um, I I just want to see some fun toys. That's all I'd like to see because I grew up watching fun toy commercials that I'd never have, and
For
I
sure.
wish they were back or that we got to
I
experience
know.
them.
Yeah, I always wonder what like kids these days think when they see old 90s cartoons and commercials. Are they like, what were they on? Or are they like, this is awesome, they should bring this kind of thing back? I'm very curious about that.
It, yes, there's a few that I would be more curious about. A Freakazoid you mentioned for one of them,
Oh
just because
yeah.
how Freakazoid being a weird, like Dr. Jackal, Mr. Hyde kind of thing, where
Mhm.
instead of it being a weird and super strong, like monstrosity of a person or what have you, it was a electric digital program man that was kind of like the Mask and was just doing things, was
Yeah.
blue skinned and insane.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely see a bit of that now, like in not just games, but also, of course, like in cartoons, like Smiling Friends. Like it's people our age who are bringing back nostalgia and sort of like making pastiches and homages to what we grew up with. So I see bits and bites of it, but definitely it's hard not to be like, oh, like I know what this reference is from, and back in mine.
Y- yes, exactly. And, just sorry, just thinking on it. I want to be
Yeah.
careful. I don't want this just to turn into two old people reminiscing of their
Yeah,
youth in the
I
90s.
know. Yeah.
But it just makes me think of like the weird cartoons that existed.
Hmm.
Like the one that jumped into my head was Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, which is like a post-apocalyptic. It's based on a comic and all sorts of stuff, but it's a post-apocalyptic, what have you, and dinosaurs are back. But like the main character drives around in a topless a Cadillac because the
Oh.
show's name or whatever. But sorry, I'm just thinking of like all the weird cartoons and
Yeah.
other like TVO-isms and such from my
Oh,
childhood.
TVOism. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
um, yes, exactly. But, this is the first time someone's kind of opened the door to this. So it's the first
Oh,
time I think I've
really?
ever
Oh my
said to even people I've spoken to from like Toronto
god.
about the weird oddities that is like
Um,
EVO-isms and YTV
wow.
and the stuff.
Yeah, I long for that. Like even, Muppets are still around, but on TV, TVO they had like, was it Under the Umbrella Tree and Book Mice? Like I watched all those things, and that just added to my love for like animation and games and all that kind of stuff. It's just like the love for creation and just like going out there and like making funny sounds. Like it's just a part of who I am, like so deeply. So yeah, you're talking my language here.
So you reminded me of some, and I looked up Book Mice. I'm like, oh, is that the one? And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. If I remember correctly, Book Mice took place up above, like there was a store downstairs,
Yeah.
and they were the upstairs. For
Yep.
whatever reason, when I was a kid, the introduction for that one, when it's going past like the mannequin wearing a pork pie hat or something, or no, it was like a
That's today's
fancy.
special. That's a whole other show, actually. Do you remember
Oh,
today's special?
I
That's the
have to look
mannequin that
really
came
quick
to
now.
life. Yeah, today's special. We're getting off topic, but today's special was this show where I think it took place in a was it Toronto department store where there was a mannequin where at night if you put the hat on his head he would come to life, and there was also Muppets of some sort on that show too, but they also went like deep into like strange narratives as well. Like there was this under story behind it that went for those who watched it an over many, I don't know how many seasons it ran for, but all throughout all the episodes. And yeah, the stuff sticks with you.
Um, but yes, I don't think it was that one. I'm not positive that it's Book Mice
Okay.
either. But there was
Okay.
one that the intro, and it was a puppet one, or a Muppet, whatever the
Okay.
difference may or may not be. And
Yeah,
just
yeah.
the intro of like the camera panning up to this whatever to the place that they existed, and this kind of like a mannequin, not a live mannequin. It scared me and made me uncomfortable, so I never watched it. And
I'm
I think
so
it might be
curious
both
which one
mice.
it was. Wow. There's also like a spooky kids show called Ghostwriter. I don't think that one was Canadian, but there were some really scary things in that, and uh yeah, there was a purple goo monster in that freaked me out for a long time. But yeah, see, I watched so many kids shows as a kid that yeah, it, I loved it.
Yes, exactly. There was a lot of stuff, and I looked real quick because I was curious. Ghost Rider was apparently a BBC show, um,
Ah.
and the only BBC shows I remember as a kid were all kind of creepy. I don't. There was one, and I don't remember. It was there was a lighthouse and mom and a kid and spiders. I don't know. I can never remember the name of it, but it creeped me out. All of the BBC stuff, for whatever reason, creeped me out as a kid.
I didn't watch it, but maybe you're thinking of, is it The Adventures of Pete and Pete?
No, definitely not.
Okay, okay. Never mind,
Sorry.
never mind.
Sorry. That one was a very definitive, oh no, it's no, it was a BBC one. It was, yeah, I'm never going to find the name of it. I've never been able to. It's one
I'll
of
think
those
about
weird
that.
things.
Yeah.
There's a possibility I hallucinated the whole thing as a child, and
Well, that
it's
was the 90s, wasn't it? Like, that really
yes,
happened.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But Michelle, like I said, I don't want to make this all about just trying to reminisce about TVOisms and YTV stuff.
Yeah.
I want to ask about a video game or video games. Now,
Yes.
this is like I'm going to ask about your favorite video games or series.
Yeah.
And I realized the easier way to phrase it might be like your Mount Rushmore of game. Because
Oh
I
my
know picking a
goodness.
favorite game is hard,
Yeah.
but picking several or series is much easier. So do you have like a Mount Rushmore of games? And if so, what would they be? What would you be putting up there?
That is, I'm like one of those very the types of people who get crippled by this answer, in the sense that, like, it's a great icebreaker to be like, "What's your favorite movie?" And I'm always like, I don't know, like the day or ever, or it changes a lot. So I'm a little temperamental in that way. So I tried to give. This is one of the questions that I will like try to give some thought to beforehand, and just go all the way back through time to just sort of list some highlights, I guess. And so I'll start like as a kid. Um, One of the earliest ones that I can remember, my sister and I played this game from 1997 called Little Big Adventure 2 Twinson's Odyssey. And it was an adventure game that it's like one of those games you just play endlessly, even though you're like stuck as a kid and you just work on it for days and weeks and months. And it's an old, I think it's French actually, but they had voiceover in English and everything, which is amazing. But just a great narrative, action-packed game, um, full of wacky characters that we loved. And I think they've made. I think there's a reboot or like a remaster, however you want to call it, like a new version that came out recently. But it's very different than the original, I would say. But yeah, very kooky, very fun. A Link to the Past was another one on SNES. That's one of my old favorites. I still think that's one of my favorite Zelda games. Maybe not ever. Oh yeah, it's one of the top ones. Because it's just like such great level design. Boss fights were so memorable. Like the overworld versus the dark world. Like I don't know, stuff like that. I still think about. Sonic Adventure 1 was something I put on my list because such a great soundtrack that I still love. Mario Kart 64, that was a huge one amongst friends and family. Um, dare I say it's probably still the best Mario Kart? I don't know. But yeah, amazing levels, amazing characters. I'd be the person endlessly spamming like Toad saying, "I'm the best," like over and over and over when you choose Toad. um, Played a lot of The Sims in high school. That was probably like one of my favorite games during that time of my life. But it's kind of like we would make each other, like as in my friends and I would like make each other in the game, then try to. For some reason, my character had a mysterious cough and died on the street one day back from home, and I'll like never forget that. I was like so shocked. I think it's a very rare percentage thing that could happen in the game. And then Ocarina of Time, that's a huge one as well. Like my sister and I played that so much and so into the fandom of it growing up. Like we made fan art and all of that and got into that whole thing. And that's actually how my sister met her now husband of like, I don't even know how long they've been married now, 20 something years, was through like a Zelda forum. And then as a adult person, my favorite games in the past, I don't know, decade, I try to give this a thought, it would be like, I'm a big fan of Lucas Pope's games. So he made Papers, Please, Obra Dinn, some other games on like the Playdate as well, which I played. Yeah, just great, amazing puzzle sim type games. Those are the kind of games now that really get my attention. And also, I was thinking about this, like Disco Elysium was also such a masterful narrative game and kind of tickled that sort of going onto the Mount Rushmore of games for me in the past few years too. So yeah, that was a lot of answers, but they're kind of all over the place. I tried to give like highlights, I suppose, throughout my life.
So thank you for that. And yeah, I am acutely aware of how mean that question is. End of day. Like I've asked enough people, and I'm well aware that it is a mean question, no matter how you
No,
frame it. Right?
no. It's got to be asked.
It's kind of like you said. Like you have to sit there and be like, in the last, like when I was a kid. You mean like adventure games or what have you? It's I always think of the scene from Scott Pilgrim, whether you want to refer to the graphic novel or the movie, when Chow asks young Neil what he plays as he's sitting there playing on the DS or whatever it is, and
Right.
goes, "Whew, that's a hard question," and then it just sort
Yeah.
of like fades away from there or what have you.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm acutely aware of how mean that question is. So thank you for giving me your Mount Rushmore. I appreciate the highlight over the years because that's always nice. That's always a good way to approach it, I think, and that's how I'm going to try and ask it now, just to make it easier and nicer for people.
No, I mean it's all good. I feel like my answers probably change daily, that kind of a thing. But yeah, I'm sure we'll touch on some others as we go through this.
Now, I am curious as well because you said the 64 was big for
Mhm.
you guys. Mario Kart
Yeah.
64, obviously. Um,
Yeah.
now, I'm curious because this is always a fun question to ask people that are in the know. How long did it take the scar to heal for Mario Party? I'm just curious on your part.
It heals. Yeah, what a crazy game. Like, I'm trying to think. If you're gonna ask my friend that question, I think her hand had literal scars from Mario Party because there was that level. Uh, what was it? I think one person plays as Bowser, and then the other three probably try to like throw them off or something. But you have to like rotate um, the joystick with your palm, or you don't have to, but that's how we did it. But she did it so hard that her hand, like the skin, like literally came off of it because she was doing it so hard while playing Mario Party. But she wore it with pride, but I was always like, that might be a bit far.
Um, yeah, there were a few. And fun fact about that, Nintendo got so many complaints. They never put those kind of games back in because their intention was you would use your thumb, which is insanity. But
yeah, we did not.
there was a yeah, exactly. We did not. There was a mail-in you could do if you provided proof of purchase, which is impossible for a child. But
Mm.
they would send you effectively a fingerless glove that had a mount connector for it, and then you could just palm it that way. Um,
What?
I've
I don't know if I
always
knew that.
think it was only through Nintendo Power or something. I personally
Oh,
regret never getting
wow.
one. I regret not doing
Yeah.
it because it's such a wild thing that had to
Yeah.
exist because, we were cutting our palms open and
I
scarring.
know. And like the joystick itself would have this like white crust around it because you'd been like twisting it so much around. I don't know if you had that, but like I remember my friends was just like when you moved it, it would just go like like it was yeah. Yep.
Yes, exactly. I took mine apart years ago, because I painted the controller and the
Oh,
console and what have you.
nice.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I cleaned that out, and I was shocked how much of that
Oh,
existed. I'm like, well, the
oh my
joystick survived
god.
somehow. That's nice.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're one of the lucky ones, I guess.
Well, like, I'm just shocked it didn't break off at some point, you know?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
But no, yeah, but yeah, yes. Anyone, it's hard to ask young people this question because like they don't know. Most people have not played Mario Party if they're younger. They would probably have tried 2 or 3 if they were going back to the 64 era. So it's
Yeah.
always fun to ask someone that is my age about, the scars, the battle scars, so to say.
Yeah, I get it. It's still I think it's still a frustrating game to play, like, with the new ones too, and oh, yeah, lots of salty parties, I think, because I think it naturally tries to even out or, I don't know, make you angry in a way, like how many stars each person can get. I don't know. It's not skill-based. I refuse to believe it's skill-based.
I I agree. I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah, yeah.
It is a thing. Even the newer ones, they are definitely a thing.
Ah, ah.
Exactly. It's hard to not get frustrated just thinking about all the times, your friend was losing and then they were
Mhm.
given 3 stars to win and, you accidentally then give them a bloody nose because you smacked them with a pillow too hard.
Damn.
It's always an accident, right? You never intentionally do it.
Right, right. Oh gosh.
That wasn't a true story at all. That's
No,
not
I
something
get
that happened in my personal life. Not in the closest.
no, no, it's all good. It reminds me actually of speaking of bloody nose.
Go on,
A
please.
story where I know I was wondering whether or not to bring this up. It's not from a fight, but it's actually a fond video game memory where um I was invited to a sleepover with my sister and her friends. And they had like I think it was an SNES Bomberman, and we were playing it all night. And then eventually it was like curfew. It was time to go to bed. I remember her mom was like, "Lights out, don't want to hear anymore." And of course, like we woke up and started playing the game. Like it was probably like way past 2 a.m. And we tried to be as quiet as possible, but you know, I mean, being I don't remember how old we were, 10, 11, 12. Being that young, of course we like, started making noises from frustration and excitement. And then yeah, her mom started coming downstairs and we all just started scrambling. And then I don't remember exactly what happened, but I ran into one of my sister's friends like head on and just had like a really bad nosebleed. And of course, the mom discovered us, and I don't want to say I was the one who got us all into trouble. We all got in trouble, but it's turned into a fond memory where, like, we stayed up late playing Bomberman. But yeah, the bloody nose was a part of that story as well. We just wanted to play Bomberman.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's a very fair statement. You just wanted to
We
play
just wanted to play
Bomberman.
Bomberman.
Everyone
Yeah.
just wants to play Bomberman, right? Like it was a
Yeah.
great game to play with
It
people.
was. Yeah. Yeah. We all laughed about it, in the end.
Yes, after you jam the Kleenex up your nose and it
Yeah,
stops bleeding and all
exactly.
the fun, right?
Exactly.
Now, Michelle, I am curious about this as well because I like to ask this one because I think it's important to talk about because in most cases. Uh, just because you work with games aren't typically going to be your whole life. So I'm wondering, outside of gaming, what do you enjoy doing? Like, what do you do to relax?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think it's a lot of the similar things a lot of people like to do in Toronto, like hanging out with friends, checking out cool places to eat, going to art galleries and museums, stuff like that. Watching movies. It's hard to I also like working on them as well. So working on audio for movies and TV on the side, stuff like that. Like don't want to blend too much of it and not enjoy movies anymore, but I still do. I love doing crafts. I like to draw, do some needle felting. I just like taking some workshops every now and then. Did like a Japanese flower arranging workshop a while ago. But my biggest hobby is doing pottery, actually. And it was during like the beginning of the pandemic that I started taking classes for it. And um, but before that, I always liked making like little figurines out of oven baked clay. Like I remember making like Tom Nook from Animal Crossing and Finn and Jake from Adventure Time. And I eventually like learned how to work with clay that you have to fire in an actual kiln. And I have a kiln now, like in my basement. So that's kind of turned into this like full-time hobby. And other than that, I love spending time with my cats. And I have a leopard gecko as well. And in the spring and summers, I like to volunteer as well at a cat rescue. So I love cats, and I remember you have a cat as well.
How do I? Yes, there is a cat that lives in the same place that I. um, I I say this, and it comes off way worse than it is, but he's my partner's cat,
Uh,
and I refuse to take ownership.
oh, really?
Well, he's a jerk.
Oh.
I make that joke, but in all honesty, in terms of cats, he's on the upper scale of not being too much of a jerk. He just likes to be a jerk at like 2 a.m. So he's a jerk.
I
Um,
getcha. I
but
getcha.
no, but thank you for sharing that. I think
Yeah.
that's really awesome. Volunteering at the animal shelter or a cat rescue
Mm-hmm.
store. My brain scrambled right away.
No, no.
But that's really awesome as well. I I'm both impressed and jealous of you having your own kiln in your basement to do
Mm.
pottery. Um,
Mhm.
only because myself, I've been interested in trying to do pottery, but it's a whole
Yeah,
thing, as you've learned. Um,
it is.
so I am impressed and jealous that you not only got into it and enjoyed it enough to continue, but also have a kiln. You can just do it at home. You don't have to rent space at a kiln and all of that fun stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to like dabble in it, you should definitely try out like polymer clay that you can make at home in your oven as well. Because like I sometimes like want to go back to that too because it's like you can finish that process in a day, a few hours, whereas like pottery is like days because like firing it can take days as well, and you have to do multiple firings to like get it to like a glazed state as well. So yeah, if you ever want to dabble, I'd say go buy a pack of Sculpey and yeah, just go for it.
Thank you for that kind of encouragement. Sorry, I was trying to think of the right way to put that, and I'm like, oh crap, this is going to sound mean. Thank you for that encouragement because that is a good way to get started, and it's an
Yeah,
easier way to get started without
it
having to
is.
rent a
Yeah.
kiln or what have you.
Yeah, it's a big commitment for sure. For sure.
But thank you for sharing that, and I'm surprised because you had also mentioned before we started because I mentioned as well that uh my the cat that resides here, my partner's cat,
Yeah.
that I had mentioned that my landlord came to do a pre-vacating inspection, and he got scared, as he does, of anyone that knocks on the door, and he
Oh,
he was hidden under the bed for 3 hours. So I'm surprised that he has behaved as well as he has. And you also
okay.
made the comment that you were expecting your cat to also start misbehaving. And it seems like they've also been behaving, which is
Yes, they
fantastic on your side,
have.
I imagine.
They have. I think it's the moment I leave this room, they'll be like, dinner time, and they'll just go crazy. So I think they'll be good for a while longer.
Fingers crossed for you, just fingers crossed for
It's
you.
all good. Yeah. Gotta love them.
Now also I wanna drop this one on you. And I am working you towards the door. I don't want to take up too much more of your time.
Oh,
I'm
no,
just
it's all
making that
good.
clear. But at the same time, I do want to hit you up with the lightning round question. And as I
Yeah.
mentioned before we started recording, these are lighthearted, they're nonsensical, and rather random. So feel free to answer them as quick as you'd like. There's no judgment. You can just do whatever you'd like to with these questions.
Right. Okay.
Now, I like to ask this one, and I ask everyone this one just because it's such a nonsense question. I love it. Um, However, which video game character do you think would want uppies from a goth dommy mommy?
Puppies from a goth dommy mommy. Hmm. Feel like for some reason I feel like Luigi wouldn't mind, but Geralt seems like the one who'd be like the right answer from the Witcher series, where he's like totally into that. He's ready to go. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense for
Thank,
me.
if it makes sense for you, that's what matters. So thank you for that. Um, which video game character do you think is most likely to think of the Holy Roman Empire at least once a week?
Holy Roman Empire. Um, Probably any most of the characters from Fire Emblem. Like, they're just scheming every day, planning their next strategic attack, and just like, I don't know, like what would the Romans do? I guess that's the thought. Yeah.
Very practical answer. Thank you. Now I'm gonna hit you up with this one, and we'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
Wh- Which video game character do you think is most likely to say, "I'm not mad, just disappointed in you personally"?
I feel like since I mentioned him earlier, probably Tom Nook from Animal Crossing. Because every time he talks to you, he wants bells from you. And when you don't give it to him, he just has that passive aggressive attitude that comes through. So, yeah, he would say that, but it would just be like, yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's probably that's probably who would do.
So thank you for that. And I wasn't even thinking about the delivery of it until you said it. And that's you're right. That makes it would be so hard not to laugh,
I
but
know.
also knowing that he's basically trying to dress you down, and
Yeah.
you'd have to sit taking him seriously. It's like when your parents give you trouble for something that you don't actually care about, and you're doing your
Right.
best to hold it together and make them think you're feeling
Right.
sorry or what have you. So like that's how I envision it. So thank you
He
for
would
that
say it
mental
and then
image.
like have the smile, the smiley eyes on his face. So yeah.
Thank you for that. And
Yeah.
that's the lightning round questions.
Oh, great.
Thank you for that. Now, I do want to bug you with a few more, if you will permit me
Yeah,
to bug you for a few more minutes.
of course. Yeah.
So I'm wondering about this one because, as you mentioned you're into audio. When you were a kid, the watching anime, watching cartoons, the wild
Yeah.
cartoons, like realizing all how that interacts and like the timing, beats, what have you. I
Mm.
am wondering, was there a game, and it can be an old game, new game, what have you, but is there a game that you think has like an underappreciated audio as a whole? There you could pinpoint any kind of, idea for where that question would be. But is there like a game that you think has a really good set of audio setups that no one's recognized or just goes under the radar?
Wow. Um, since we were talking about it earlier, I think fondly, and I miss the rhythm games from the DS. So like Rhythm Heaven. I don't know if you remember that or people remember that. It's like funny and just so slick. Um, Owen Dunn was another one on the DS, but I think they made a North American version called like Elite Beat Agents. Those were great games and just so like tactile and fun, and they had like narratives behind them too. Like I don't know, like I don't know how to finish my homework. Someone come help me, and then it turns into like a rhythm game. I loved it. Um, do people remember like Space Channel 5 on Dreamcast? Like those were all like ones I think of fondly, with great sound and that kind of thing behind it. Um, is the question about like audio or just sort of games in general, like that kind of went under the radar?
You know, you can feel free to take that in any direction that you would like. So if you are wanting to
Yeah.
take it as games in general that you feel went under the radar that more people should be aware of, by all means, I'd love to hear your picks on that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess like because talking about these rhythm games and stuff on the DS, I just like I miss the DS. um Phoenix Wright, I still think about that all the time and just like how silly that gang of characters were. Um my references are all so old. But I guess lately there's games now that I, move towards, like on Steam. There's a game called Arctic Eggs, which is like a funky, weird cooking game that you can finish in a few hours. And it's got like, weird PlayStation kind of art, but it also has like a rocking soundtrack that you can buy on vinyl as well. And I think right now they're developing a game. I don't remember what it's called. Is it called like Gone Fishing or something like that? That I can't wait to play because it just has that same sort of like offbeat narrative where the characters just say very like weird one-liner, two-liner things, but it's got a deeper meaning behind. And I can't wait. I bet they're gonna have a great soundtrack too. Um, Creature Kitchen was another one that I played recently, which is like a newer spooky cozy game where you try to figure out like what recipes creatures in the woods want to eat. And it's a bit spooky in the sense that maybe it's spoopy, where you're in the woods and you're just basically uncovering through taking photos of like weird creatures to find out what foods they want to eat, and you have to make them through recipes that you find. And yeah, just I don't know. I love that kind of thing. And Dropsy is another one I would say. Like that game, I feel like it was a Devolver Digital game, but for some reason, I feel like it didn't get enough credit. It's a point and click adventure game about a circus clown um, that also has, I think, one of my favorite soundtracks to date as well. So yeah, I don't know if people know that one, but definitely check it out. Just weird and wonderful, kind of 90s. I guess like everything that I like kind of probably can be traced back to the 90s.
You know, I have had that feeling for myself a lot as well. But thank you for for the mentioning Arctic Eggs as well as Creature Kitchen
Mm,
and Dropsy.
mhm,
Dropsy is
mhm,
a fantastically weird game that I think has one
mhm.
of the best mechanics I've seen, which is you can just hug people, which is
Yeah.
terrifying when you look at what Dropsy looks like. I'd
But
encourage
he's so
everyone just to
sweet. Just wants to hug
he
you.
he is so sweet. He looks, he's
Terrifying.
just
Yeah.
yeah, he looks terrifying and he just wants to be a cuddly guy.
Yeah, yeah. I love that.
Now, before I let you go, there's one thing I want to ask because you mentioned the DS. Do you remember And this is more just to share a quick story because I remembered this
Yes.
when you said, do you remember Trauma Center, the game?
Yes, I did. Yes, yeah.
So I was never able to get through basically kind of like the early mid game. And I wasn't able to get through it because I did not understand how you're supposed to use the slowdown magic, because you get magic supernatural powers in a game about doing surgery. It was DS stuff. I don't know. And I mentioned it to a friend how I couldn't figure it out. How I'd always be drawing the pentagram or the star or whatever you're supposed to do, and how I had always like I'd do it, and the level that you have to do it on, the first one where you have to, I'd be like, I'm just cutting their heart up, and it's whatever. And my friend goes, Link, you're supposed to use the hand, not the knife. I went,
Ah,
oh. And it finally clicked that I had basically been performing satanic rituals on
that's
the poor,
so
poor patient the
funny.
whole time.
Oh, did you go back to playing it, or were you just like, nah?
I had moved on by that point, so I had. It was more one of those things where I looked back and went, "Oh, I'm an idiot," but hey, that's okay.
Ah,
Just doing
that's
some gentle
okay.
Satanism, I guess.
That's so funny. It's a good story.
But no, but thank you for letting me remember that and also share that, because
Of
it's
course.
such a dumb thing. As well as thank you for the recommendation of the games. And yes, the
Yeah.
DS era, those rhythm games.
Ah,
Um, I know
so-
a lot of people remember them fondly, and I
mm,
think it's we see similar games following that, and
mhm.
I've seen other rhythm games made now that are kind of like the same. So it's nice to
Mhm.
see that some things are still continuing the trend, even if you don't get to use a stylus to do all the crazy stuff on the screen and tapping and all that stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But Michelle, as I said with that one, I did want to, let you go. That was only meant to be a quick one, my little follow up there. So like I said, I do want to turn on the lights, let you go. However, if there's anything else you want to discuss, like if a cool game you wanted to throw out there, or more cool games that you wanted to throw out there, what you're doing, something you feel more people should just be aware of, or what have you, by all means, the floor is all yours. As well, please let everyone know where they can find more information about you, which I'll also include in the episode description.
Wow. Yeah. Where to begin? I guess like just wanted to shout out the indie game audio folks out there from like yeah, we were talking about the people behind the scenes, whether it's composers, sound designers, voice actors, just like people who pour their hearts out into projects with small budgets and massive creativity, and not just the sound designers, but like a lot of the people who are working on all these like weird, wonderful indie games out there. Yeah, your work just makes the game feel alive, and the passion that people are bringing to every little pixel, every beep, musical note, like it doesn't go unnoticed. So thank you to those out there who are doing that. I was thinking earlier too, I wanted to like shout out people who make the software. This is such a nerdy thing, but to people who make the middlware and the DAWs, so Wise and Reaper, two programs that I use a lot in game audio, and they're like also the unsung heroes in game audio and the tools that help empower like designers to create immersive experiences. So shout out to Reaper and Audio Kinetic. I bet no one's ever said that on this podcast, but I wanted to say that too. And yeah, overall, just wanted to say thanks, Link, for having me on the podcast. It was really nice to reminisce and for you to listen to all of my very old references from my childhood. There's so many that I wrote down too. I was like, I wonder if anyone knows this game. And I feel like it could be a whole podcast episode in itself about like these weird, whether it's LucasArts games, or like I think it was like Westwood Studios, like point and click adventure games. That was like another huge thing that like I played growing up, and I was like, wow, I could actually talk about them for hours. And even preparing for this podcast, I started watching like like old Apple games like Oregon Trail and Odell Lake, Odell Down Under. I don't know if anyone remembers those, but yeah. Um, other than that, where you can find me, I guess in the 90s, but Also, you can find me. Let's see, my website is up and running. So michellewho.com. That's my name, hwu.com. You can find me on Instagram with under my name, or on LinkedIn under my name if you just want to talk or have any questions about the industry. Feel free to poke me there. And yeah, I'm around. I'm on the webs.
So thank you. Sorry, thank you for that. And yeah, that's, I think, a shout out to the shout outs you did are fantastic shout outs. I would be hard pressed to ever disagree with that. And I think you are, if you're not the first, you are the second to shout out Reaper. So
Oh, nice.
fantastic,
Sweet.
fantastic.
Sweet.
But no, thank you as well for for agreeing to let me steal some of your time. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you sharing and reminiscing along with me as well, because it's rare that you mentioned certain things that make me think of things, and it's fun to also just go back to those things. So thank you as well for sharing your stories and allowing me to share some stuff with you as well.
Of course, that was fun. Anytime you want to chat 90s like Ontario, Canada things, I'm around.
I will keep that in mind. Thank you. Now, I said I wanted to let you go. However, I wanted to throw, because you mentioned indie games, and right now, as of recording this, we just finished the Steam Next Fest, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm wondering were there any standouts for you? I'd feel remiss if I didn't ask this, even though this episode will come out much further down the road.
Oh my
were there any that
gosh.
stood out for you?
I actually need to like catch up. So I feel like I haven't, maybe I should ask you. Like I want to check out Replaced. That's one I want to like check out. It's been on my wish list for a while now. And what else was on there actually? I should probably go check it out. There's another one where I don't know if it's like a controversial one now where it's like the company that made Disco Elysium, there's like a new one called I think it's Parade Zero. Was it Zero Parade? Like a new game, but very controversial due to layoffs that had affected the writers in that company. So it's almost like a lot of creative people got let go from that team. But I am like morbidly out of morbid curiosity, go check out what the new game is like. Yeah, so that's like a hot topic one that I think could be discussed as well, but a lot of weight behind trying out that game.
Yes, I am vaguely aware of all of the what have yous that happened there, and
Yeah.
it's a whole very nuanced thing when you like really get into it and you start to realize, no one's a good guy, but like it's weird stuff. Just to put it lightly, because like it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing that you can look into and understand why you would go with like the same kind of morbid curiosity that you have, right?
Absolutely. Is there one that you've checked out yourself?
From the Next Fest, yeah, there was actually a few. One of the ones, depending on what you would enjoy,
Huh.
one of the ones that I've enjoyed as like a Metroidvania was Akatori.
Hmm.
One that I like roguelikes. I like all the dumb things they're doing with roguelikes right now, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
So like Vampire Crawlers was really fun to play around with. Loot Loop was fun to play around with. There was a
Nice.
really weird one called Rock Bottom, and you're playing as a little uh I am struggling to think of the word. Not a troll, it's I can't the little green guys. Sorry.
Uh, a,
Um
a no? Or
no, not an not the friendly little gnome guys. It's like they're like trolls, but they're the small trolls.
oh, not a gremlin.
Goblin,
A
there we go.
goblin. Gotcha. Oh, I see
Um
it. Yeah.
but you're playing as a little goblin, and you are fighting the ground. Like the elements that you are, your enemy, so to say, is the ground, which is a wild thing to say that probably makes no sense, but you're just mining until you can't mine anymore to get upgrades to mine more and,
Oh,
do things like that. So those were some of the ones I thought were
that's
interesting.
cool.
As well, I'll throw out the Witch's Bakery. That one was a interesting kind of
Ooh.
it's an interesting kind of like uh, uh, I don't want to say cooking mama type game, but it's like a cooking kind of game, but it also has like a bunch of little neat story beats where as the witch you're trying to heal people through cooking, and there's like little mini games and there's little other things that happen. It was an interesting thing that, it made my list to want to follow. So like I'm
Yeah.
mentioning it because I don't, if everyone doesn't like roguelikes, they might like this.
Yeah, that's a great recommend. I've added to my things to play coming up. Thank you.
No worries, no worries. But outside of that, Michelle, as I said, I want to turn on the lights. I want to let you go. I don't want to steal any more of your time.
Yeah.
So, if there wasn't anything else, I'll turn on the lights and I'll let you go.
Yeah, I guess that's it for me. Other than wondering what your favorite game of the past 5 years would have been, out of curiosity.
Oh man, the favorite game out of the last 5 years.
Or 3, whichever.
Well, that
I know it's
doesn't make it
tough.
any easier.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to think because a lot of how I think about games, my relationship with them is I think of them in terms of if I'd recommend, right? Like if I'd say you should play it or
Mm,
try it. Um, and
or
like
even if it's personal to you, I would say. Not even recommended, but like to define Link in the past 5 years.
I would say in that case, and this was like my game of the year a few years back, which is a rare thing for me to also firmly say. It's
Yeah.
Little Gator Game or Lil Gator Game. Um,
Oh.
and it's kind of like a little wobbly ragdolly kind of character, and you're playing in a forest, and all the enemies are like cardboard enemies, and there's all this stuff, and your whole thing is your older sister is coming back from college, and you are
Oh.
trying to get her to play like the games that you used to play, make believe game. Um,
Oh.
and all your friends are helping build this world, but all your friends are finding other things to do because as you get older, you branch out, you expand and all that. And the main character you're playing is someone that just wants to hold on to that nostalgia from when they were a few years younger. Um,
Oh.
so I would say, as we talked about uh, uh, 90s nostalgia and what have you, this
Yeah.
game hit very close to home just because of
Mm.
what it was and like the idea of holding on to those memories as well as being able to let some of them go and expand and grow and all
Wow.
of that. So that would be one that I would say is probably in the last few years that resonates with me, I think.
Yeah. That's a great answer. It's a beautiful answer and sort of like ties this whole podcast together really nicely, I'd say.
Yeah, and if I'd definitely recommend checking it out, even just to take a look, because it's
Absolutely.
I'd argue it's worth the time, especially if you're someone that likes to exist in your nostalgia, right?
Yeah, yeah. It looks wonderful. Overwhelmingly positive. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
Awesome, great to
Cool.
hear. Sorry, that's I said that with a weird inflection. That is awesome and great to hear. But otherwise, Michelle, if there was nothing else, I will let you go. I'll let you get on with your evening.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Link.
No, thank you for joining me.
Have a great rest of your day.
You as well.
Okay, take care. Bye.
So thanks again to Michelle for making time to have this conversation with me, and thank you for joining us on the Red Tunic Podcast. And a special thanks to Roland Jenkins for the use of music from the title track from Roads Deep. And be sure to check out the episode description for links to socials, websites, and other means that will allow you to learn more about Michelle and the podcast. And while you're doing that, share, like, follow, and whatever else you think makes the algorithm work. Thanks. Till next time.